welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we have the Springbank Single Cask Fresh Port 18-year-old. Dustin, did I say that correctly?
I believe so.
Nice. This is distilled November 1996, bottled July 2015. Only 273 bottles were made. And Dustin, this might be some of the darkest whiskey I've laid eyes on.
Yeah, cask strength, dark, and the camera's not going to show it, but we were looking at it earlier. I mean, there are proteins and
Sediment.
I mean, this thing it's an integrity bottling.
Yeah, sure. It reminds me of the Blackadder Raw Cask Isla Cask 10-year-old that I have, just little bits and pieces. Now, it's not as chunky as the bits and pieces of that barrel char, but yeah, there's grit in this thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what can you tell me about this one, Dustin? I know it's a single cask. You had this for, as you put it, longer than you've known me.
Yeah.
Long time.
Yeah, I've had this 2.5, 3 years. It's only 3 years now.
Is that how long we known each other? 2.5, 3 years?
We know each other probably more like 2.
More like 2. Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Time flies when you're having fun, buddy.
Yeah, so when they say fresh at Springbank, my understanding is fresh means the barrels were still wet.
When they put the whiskey in?
Yeah. So it's not just like it's a first time use it, but it's actually a wet barrel. So there still was port physically in the barrel.
So they didn't like break it down into staves and reassemble it?
Correct.
They just here's the barrel, they roll it out of the truck and said, hey, there's a little bit left, do what you will.
Yep.
So yeah, you are a huge fan of Springbank. Not that I'm not, but you have a heck of a collection of them. This is a very rare one, even for your collection. So looking forward to get into it. So again, we'll talk about the natural color. Very, very, very dark. And I always say very dark a lot of times. Glendronach 18 dark.
Yeah.
Island Park 28 Cadenhead dark. This is stupid coffee dark.
Yeah, I mean, this is darker than most coffee.
Woo, yeah. And you know me, I have the espresso. I'm an espresso junkie.
Yeah.
Get special beans from Ethiopia, and this is even darker than that.
Yeah, I mean, there's even like a redness to it. And I almost want to get in like the word purple. Like it's that red and dark.
As my buddies used to say on my basketball team, they got a bruise, there was blurple. Just black and purple. And that's essentially what it looks like. This is a dark color, dark prune looking color. Anyway, enough about the color. What are you picking up in the nose, my friend?
You instantly get into this sweetness that instantly tells you this is a port cask. It's that dark, it's plums, dates. It's not sherry where you start saying raisins and figs. It's darker. It's all those dark fruits. And then you get into this dunnage warehouse, this dark, dank, Springbank dunnage warehouse. And this thing was aged. This is one of those that was covered in cobwebs, just got forgotten for 10, 15 years, and they started saying, let's start looking at this bottle, see where it's going.
Yeah, so dark. You talk about the dunnage, smell to it. So first of all, port to me can sometimes come off more sugary and sweet than sherry, and this is one of those scenarios where it does come off super sugary and super, super sweet, but yes, not raisin, it's more really a dark, dark plum. Yeah. Which, you figure like, what's the really difference between raisin and plum? There's a significant difference.
Yeah, it's sweeter.
It's sweeter, but it's a darker fruit to where it makes the raisin almost seem like yellowish in terms of the flavor profile, which may not make a lot of sense, but if you have both of them back to back, I think you would understand a little bit what I mean there. Then the next thing I get is when you talk about the warehouse maturation, this is like the hole in Shawshank. You know what I mean? Like, it's like 3 or 4 levels below the ground. There's no light getting down there.
You know what?
This was hard time.
It's your grandma's basement.
Where they stored stuff.
They're storing stuff. There's a lot of wood. There's a lot of cardboard boxes. There's old antique stuff they just wouldn't throw out because grandma.
Yeah, Grandpa fought in World War II.
Yep.
Brought back the Hanjo Masamune from Japan. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Who knows? Bicycles down there.
Yeah, his old workbench is there. That hasn't been used in 15 years, but it's still got all those tools on it. I mean.
Okay, so aside from that, I am now, after you take a few sniffs, I am getting that, now what I've refined the Springbank smell down to is now GW Grinder sourdough toasted bread. I'm getting a little bit of that.
Interesting. I get a lot
it's behind the sweetness. Sorry, I didn't mean that. It's behind the sweetness, but it's there.
Yeah, I get a hint of that sea brine, but it's very light. The port is the showcase here, but there's a little bit of that sea brine. Just drop.
Yeah, this is a very, when you say single cast, port cast finish, this feels like it just, if you're a fan of Macallan, an overly sherry Macallan cast strength. You know what I'm saying? This is really not letting a lot of this distillery characteristic come through. Mm-hmm. This is very, very cask dominant release.
Yeah.
So it's taking a different direction, but still the background notes are still there.
I mean, you can even get a little bit of sugar cookie sweetness. I don't think I quite get the cookie dough, but I get the sweetness that you get on like those, sugar cookies.
Or at least the sugar itself off those sugar cookies.
Definitely it's the sugar.
Yeah, this is probably one of the sweeter Springbanks that I've ever known.
Yeah.
For sure. And then, yeah, I mean, again, the dark fruits, it's not overly complicated with how many fruits there are. It's fruity, it's sherry, with just a little bit of that twinge of that earthiness and that dirtiness from the Dunnage Warehouse kind of coming in at the end, rounding out the nosing profile. What's it taste like, my friend?
It starts off with those sweet plums, those sugars we just talked about. It's very rich, it's viscous, it's oily. And then it transitions to this antiquiness. I'm talking like aged leathers, varnishes. I almost get a little bit of like a Robitussin in here with that little bit, and the alcohol's there. I get elements that remind me of like a well-aged rum even. And then the finish, you start getting a little of the brine. There's a hint of peat. It's very subtle. It's long, it's lingering, it's transitioning back and forth from sweet to, again, just antiqued medicinal and antiqued leathers and woods.
Yeah, woods for sure. I mean, I get some of that. For me, it's dominant sweetness. And then the fruits come in. And you know what's surprising is there's a couple of red fruits right when you first swallow on the palate. Maybe a strawberry, maybe borderline cherry, but maybe like a cherry skin sort of to it. Something really red in regards to the fruits. Now, as far as moving away from the fruits and the sweetness, I maybe get a little bit of that leather furniture polish, type taste to it. But for me, the dominant experience is just fruit, red fruits, dark plums, sugary sweetness.
Yeah, I mean, maybe even like cherries aged in brandy.
Yeah, there is a cherry note to it. Like I said, it's not like over the top cherry like you'd say in a Glendronach or say what was that bourbon? That Wild Turkey bourbon we had.
Oh yeah, the Master's Keep.
Yeah, the Master's Keep. Right. Yeah, I didn't really get a good cherry on that, but I kind of went back to it. I was like, yeah, I kind of smell, but it's not that sort of. It's not that Morello cherry that you would get at a bar. It's an old dark cherry. You know what I mean?
Everything about this is like you've gone into like this, bar that's ancient, it's rich leathers, and they're pouring something that's 100 years old.
Old cognac.
Cognacs or something like that, and there's just all those different earth elements. Mike, we get into like a lot of whiskeys where we're talking about cookies and sugars, vanillas. We're not talking about a whole lot of like vinegar and things like that. But I mean, you even start to get certain elements that make me start thinking a little bit about vinegar or something. Not the sourness, but like they've just something about like it's been used for aging, and a reduction sauce is going in here.
Yeah, there's an oily characteristic to it, like some type of oil that you would need to lubricate, say like something you would bake. For the most part. I mean, the legs of this thing are incredible.
Yeah. Water's definitely bringing out more of the sweet, like sugar cookie type notes.
And fruit notes.
Yeah, the fruits are more distinct. I'm getting a little less of the Dunnage Warehouse.
I do. That strawberry's coming back for me. The strawberry with that little green top, little wisp of leaf on the top, both of that's there.
Yeah, there's an earthy, like grass, fresh cut fruit kind of combination going on there.
Almost like an orchard tree once it was like, harvesting season. Hit a few branches. So a little bit of that broken wood branch along with that fruit.
Like a little apple. There is still some kind of like a high-end steakhouse that's done some kind of reduction sauce. Just something like, I don't...
It's like you're at Per Se in New York. That's a great little French restaurant in New York.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's like, again, they some kind of super sweet sauce they're adding to like, a Kobe beef or something.
Or duck.
Yeah, or duck. Yeah, there you go. They're just trying to like bring out sweetness and savory.
Duck's kind of a tough meat. Now that we're kind of going down this road, maybe you got me thinking. So duck is, especially in a nice restaurant, it's a little fatty comparatively to some other meats like chicken and whatnot.
Yeah, even steak, it's kind of fatty.
Sure, it's greasy too. Like that greasy fattiness, sometimes they'll put a little more of a glaze on it than they would some of the other things to kind of get you away, make you think it's a little bit more of a sweeter meat. I give them a little hint of that. A little bit of duck sauce at a really nice restaurant.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, man, there's that plum again. That plum's very, very, just very distinctive. All right, last sip time, Dustin. I'll give it a score and tell people what we think about this one. Again, only 273 bottles made, and it was distributed, in 2015, so it's 21 now. It's 6 years.
Now, there are 19s and 20s, and I believe 21-year-old bottlings that were done of this. So there's few casks that are out there, and I've heard similar notes on all of them. So if you're getting fresh rum, I think you're going to get 95% of what we're getting, just with some slight nuances, some slight differences.
I like the port, man. The port was a nice change up for this.
Yeah, I've been meaning to bring this over to you for a while. It just kept, well, we had other stuff we were looking
Yeah,
at.
no, it's a great whiskey.
I'm going to have to go in for one more final one. Here, Mike, give your notes.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm kind of the same place again with water. I think more of the fruitier notes come up, definitely red fruits. But again, made the plum more distinctive. But also, again, I'm getting a lot of that strawberry or just generic red berry. And, I mean, beautiful whiskey. I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
As far,
I'm getting a little bit of cranberry now.
yeah, some type of red
Some
berry.
sourness, some bitterness is coming through. I mean, again, it's taken that antique, really unique whiskey, and it's just kind of brought it, it's livened it up, but it's also brought out all of the funk, the weirdness. It's still here. I mean, I'm starting to think more Springbank with the water. It's still far from what we're used to with Springbank, though.
No, it was a nice variation on an already fantastic whiskey. As far as the whiskey score, where you at? Can I go first?
Yeah, go for it.
91 out of 100.
I'm right there with you. I was debating 92, but I think this just missed. I could go 92. I'm going to go with the half point, go 91 and a half.
No one's going to send you a fine.
Yeah.
You know, you're not getting a ticket for it.
91 and a half, guys. This is incredible. One of the best Springbanks I have. Truth be told, I think this is not as complex as like a 25.
No.
Or even some of the better 21s.
No.
But this is more flavorful than they are.
Yeah, for sure. I would say, as far as flavor, this is one of the most flavorful Springbanks I've ever tried, or anything from the distillery. I mean, long
And
road.
for me, it's a little sweeter than I would want maybe if I'm going 92, 93. But it drinks with the age and quality that it could very easily be there. So if you really like port, this is going to be higher.
I think in general, I enjoy this better than the majority of the 21s. I still think the 17 and the 20, 21-year-old, if that makes sense. I prefer them over this, but it would have to be one of the better 21s. Now, I prefer the 25 over this, but just in general, the other Springbanks had the normal 18, usually with the 21. Man, this is a dynamite one.
My enjoyment on this is probably comparable with my 25s. I can tell those are better made whiskey. The extra age really helps. But man, if I just want a sweet, bold, powerful whiskey, I can't think of a better whiskey.
No. Well, you said it. It's not as complex, but it's definitely, as far as again, something sweet, something fruity.
Yeah.
This is definitely the way to go. I mean, it's a solid whiskey. It's my first time with it. Easily 91 out of 100.
Another thing I really love about this, and you've had a few older Caden heads, and those are whiskeys that are aged in the same warehouse as Springbank ages their stuff.
Sure.
It's all part of Caden heads owned by the same people as Springbank. And you can just tell certain bottles where they really were in those dunnage warehouses and they really took the character on. That's one of the reasons why I enjoy Cadenhead, and it's probably my favorite independent bottler. And that's where I get that on this one so much, is that dunnage warehouse, and I love it.
Yeah, you definitely notice in ones that were in some of those warehouses and some of those earthen floor warehouses, they do have a certain characteristic, very dark, very rich, dusty. Like when you're kind of going in some like the old antique flavors, I get all of that in those old dunnage warehouses. I think that part of that is what adds to it.
And that's where, getting close to that 20 year. Again, this drinks like it's 22 years old.
Oh, for sure.
Like it just drinks like it's older.
Great whiskey. Great whiskey. Anyway, so I'm at a 91, Dustin's at a 92. Really, really good whiskey. I know there's only 273 bottles, which are whiskeys we love to do on this channel.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's only a few hundred of them. Man, we're going to try to find those things. Anyway, if you're lucky enough to get your hands on one of this, let us know what you think. Until next time, Dustin, what do we wish the folks?
Happy drinking.
See you then.